segue out of it. But Sam and we're all about the same age. I guarantee you, Sam has early memories of. I must be in the front row.
Just a bit outside.
Yeah, just a bit outside. The best one for me, the one that always kills me, and I've seen that movie probably literally 1,000 times, is when he's just pounding the whiskey. He's like, who gives a blank? No one's listening anyways. Sam, welcome in. Sorry to lead off with that news. We just got word of that during the break. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm good. Definitely sorry to hear the news. I hadn't heard it until you shared it. Yeah, it's funny how, in general, certain characters and people become, like for me, you mentioned it, Dave, Major League was the first introduction to who Bob was. So it's like he had a whole lifetime before that movie. For our generation, I think that's it. I mean, you already dropped a bunch of the lines that were already on my mind from that movie. Tried the corner and missed.
Just a bit outside, exactly.
I mean, even, and not to make it, this might be a little too on the nose, but even going into this upcoming A's season in Sacramento, you talk about pop culture, like how many people have kind of joked that the circumstances around that team, that it was like, Major League coming to real life.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who was going to play the part of Bob, but yeah, a legend for sure.
Well, Sam, just yesterday, I think it was, yesterday in The Athletic, you wrote about some trade possibilities or some people to keep our eye on, and your ears on as well when you're talking to different people. Let's. I know it's Jimmy Butler, Zach LaVine, but let's start with Jimmy. What's the latest? What do you think the outcome will be with him and Pat Riley?
Yeah, we'll see. First of all, I feel like I got to acknowledge for the YouTube watchers, I'm going full winter look today. I didn't comb the hair. We got the Athletic beanie rocking.
I see it now. I hadn't looked yet. I see it. There's the Athletic beanie. I actually have one too. No, wait, I don't have anything from the Athletic at all.
I have 3 subscriptions.
Yeah, I've got 700 subscriptions and I can't get a damn beanie. You got your guy out there doing power rankings for the undefeated Kings during the week who beat the Celtics, who moved them from 17 to 17, and I can't even get a beanie out of it, Sam. I blame you.
Didn't move them up at all?
They went. What's his name? Law is in the name. Not to pick on him. I'm not going to have you pick on your colleague. I even said I wouldn't bring this up with you on, but yeah, they did. He moved them from 17th to 17th, Sam. and as we all know, power rankings matter a lot.
Huge.
But come on. Anyways,
that's
go ahead.
Kind of funny. I'll talk to Law about that. I mean, Jimmy, Jay, to actually answer your question, the Jimmy and Pat Riley standoff is heating up. Today is officially the first day that he's back. Jimmy's back off the suspension. They play Denver tomorrow, and I wrote this in a previous column, like the irony of that matchup is not lost on me. It was only a couple years ago that, Jimmy was leading an undermanned Miami team to the finals against Denver, kind of showing him at his best. And really, I said this to one of my colleagues yesterday. I'm curious if you guys think it's a hot take. And this is our guy, Eric Name, who covers the Bucks. I said, if you talk about this generation of players in the Eastern Conference, to me, it's not really even close. Like nobody has done more with less than Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
That doesn't make him the best player by any means of this generation in the Eastern Conference. The guy on the Bucks would have something to say about that. But like, I think my point is, and what makes this situation so interesting is that even though he is 35, I do think deep down, if he was able to lock in and really commit to whatever next team he's on, that we could be talking about Jimmy's team deep in the playoffs again and marveling at his ability to do what he does. But right now, the question is, what is Pat Riley going to do? Is he going to find a deal before the deadline? Is he going to put Jimmy on the floor? That's the first thing. I reported yesterday that, Jimmy does plan on clocking in and showing up because he's already lost $2.3 million and doesn't want to lose any more. But, what happens from that point on is somewhat unclear.
Because I had a long conversation about this a couple segments ago. Sam, can we agree that because a rival whatever sports outfit put this trade out yesterday. Can we agree that the Kings are not the team for Jimmy Butler? Just the organization in general. That does not seem good to me whatsoever.
No, I mean, I don't know, maybe, high and tight to put in Bob Uecker terms, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, combining a dysfunctional player with a dysfunctional franchise is not a great idea. And that's too simplistic, but I think they don't have the culture or the market to withstand what comes with Jimmy. And to make sure that, you guys know I'm clear-eyed about this, Jimmy does not appear to be in a great place. And even that is too simplistic, but I saw yesterday some of the commentary when you got guys like Carmelo Anthony on his podcast talking about how I know Jimmy, I've seen Jimmy, putting in 4 or 5 workouts a day, being one of the hardest workers in the league. So he prefaced it by saying, I respect him and I know what he's about. And then he basically said, I don't know what's going on with Jimmy. This is not him. This is the third, arguably fourth team that he's gotten sideways with.
Yeah.
And so at some
point, it has to be the fourth, right, Sam? I'm sorry. Am I missing something? Chicago, he got sideways with. Minnesota, for sure, he got sideways with. There's some famous stories out of there. Philly, this would be. Am I missing one of those?
No, I'm just the Philly thing is more like what side, whose side are you on?
I got you.
Joel Embiid looks at it and is like, what, it's not getting sideways. Why didn't we re-sign him? They probably should have just done it. And it wasn't, unless I'm forgetting stuff, it wasn't as dramatic. Certainly not as Minnesota and even Chicago.
Speaking of Chicago, Sam, you also wrote about Zach LaVine. Kings just saw him. He was impressive. He was really incredible. That team is just kind of hovering. They do have some assets, him being one of them. I'm sure he would be coveted. What's his trade prospect at the deadline?
Hard to tell. I mean, there's some frustration among the teams that have some interest in their guys. Like I wrote, that they're not, coming to the table a little bit more than they are. Now, obviously, like always, we don't know exactly what has been put on the table for all these different guys, but the sense and the energy is that, they continue to act like they're going to be patient, while somehow ignoring the fact that they have a lot at stake at the moment. They have a first-round pick for next year that goes to the Spurs. Unless they, it's a top 10 protected. So they mathematically, they have to finish in the bottom 6 to guarantee that they hold on to their pick. If they're 7th worst in the league, they probably still keep their pick. They'd have a 3% chance of losing it. From there, if they're 8th worst, then it's kind of ball game over. It's about 75%. So the point is they're around 500. They have a lot of reasons to lose at the moment, and they keep kind of rolling out this plucky team that's kind of fun and that has players that a lot of other teams would like to see in other jerseys. With Zach, his situation is so interesting because he's playing really, really well. For one, you don't see this very often. You're talking about a 3-point spike where he's at a career high clip of 45%, north of 7 threes attempted per game, 24 points, I think 5 and 4 from there, something like that. He's having a really good year. He's healthy. He's played most of the season, missed a couple of games. He's 29. And that contract, while massive, I feel like the longer we talk about how big his contract is, the less kind of gargantuan it seems because the numbers just keep going up.
Last year's trade deadline, some had said, was a little bit muted. There was also moves in the offseason because everyone was getting used to the apron rules and the new salary cap stuff and all that. So I would say, without us getting too nerdy into it, do you see on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your sense as to how busy this deadline would be? And then B, Jonas Valancuinas, they say we'll get a max of 2 second-round picks. Is we go from 4 picks for Gobert, 4 picks for Donovan Mitchell, and the talk that our draft picks being undervalued. Is the draft pick back? Has it made a comeback? And are we now valuing picks more?
Yeah, no question. I think the kind of the shock that teams have of how these big contracts restrict you and make business really hard to do has led to the uptick in valuing of picks, and and some of those different deals that you alluded to, Dave, changing. Which is why, even to bring it back to your Kings, like the idea of giving 2 first-round picks for a guy like Cam Johnson, I understand for the Kings why that's very hard to swallow. 2 picks for a guy like Valancuinas, 2 second rounders, that is, like that kind of floats my boat. Like that, to me, that would be worth doing. But yeah, I mean, OKC has kind of rewritten the script on this, where they've got half the damn picks in the league. And they were ahead of this curve, but that is where we are right now. And teams are certainly, I think, realizing that you send too many of those out, and you can say goodbye to the next decade or so.
Sam, it feels like the amount of teams that probably would like to make a trade is pretty large. Is everybody calling the Nets and like the Pelicans right now? I mean, are there just certain teams people are targeting? Because I bet the Lakers, the Warriors, the Kings, the Sixers, just go across the board. I bet a lot of those teams are all interested in roughly the same guys.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Portland is another one that, could be selling. Memphis, in terms of buying, I think, if we were going to forecast the next couple of weeks, if they can pull something off, it feels like Memphis is really trying to swing for the fences. We'll see if they can do something like the Jimmy Butler thing. They've been told, and this part I confirmed, that, that Jimmy isn't interested in being there. And so, but who knows, if they could ignore that. They could still do a Jimmy Butler deal. But yeah, I think more buyers than sellers, and it's New Orleans and Brooklyn and Chicago are kind of setting the market, but the Pelicans are, beyond, Brandon Ingram, certainly I'm sure a ton of interest in Herb Jones. I don't know who I'm leaving out, but they appear to still just be trying to get healthy and figure out what they have, as messy as it is. But the interest is there. The buzz is there. I'm very curious to see how many deals actually get over the finish line because of what we talked about before, the CBA construction, like Milwaukee, for example, who I wrote yesterday is, don't sleep on them with Jimmy Butler. They have not been told that he would not be interested. But for them to do a deal like that, there's some salary cap gymnastics that have to happen. They got to get, under the second apron a little bit and this and that. It's just hard to pull off these days. So aspirations, don't kind of always lead to execution of a deal, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It's a great, aspirations don't always lead to execution. That's a fine saying. Sam Amick joins us from The Athletic. Game 2 of the Clash of the Titans series, if we want to call it that, because we had one about a little over a week ago. The Cavs visit the Thunder tonight at 4:30. And you want to talk about champagne problems. That I will never miss a chance to slobber all over Sam Presti, who not only are the...
What a gross visual.
Listen, dude, I love him. So I would, when somebody asked me the other day, somebody literally asked me the other day, like, if you could get Sam Presti to sign a 10-year contract with the Sacramento Kings, would you have one of your pinkies surgically removed? And I had to think about it for a long time.
Someone asked you that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it was me. I'm making it up, but I think I might actually do that. I love him so much. Not only do they have the best or second best, depending on the day, record in the NBA, they control like half the draft for the next 10 years. It seems like their core is signed for the next 3, 4, 5 years. So you talk about, whether it's the Washingtons or the New Orleanses or the Brooklyns or whoever that are going to be sellers, buyers, etc. Is the league at all? What is the take on the Thunder? And talk about champagne problems, Sam, who are sitting here doing so great, but also simultaneously have the salary and the picks to probably add another superstar if they want.
They do. And before I answer the direct question, just to continue with the Sam Presti propaganda, what cracks me up about Sam, who I like a lot personally, is that, I mean, as if it's not, already so annoying that he's pretty damn good at his job. This guy stays in immaculate shape, is pretty ripped, which always, I don't know where you find the time for that.
Right.
He plays drums, which is a hell of a little thing to do on the side. has this affinity for the legendary band Rush that I've always found so interesting, and is a good family man. So shout out Sam Presti. He's doing,
and he's younger than I am. So I actually kind of hate him.
Yeah. And by the way, he's like one of the most famous, not famous people ever. We connected in Vegas at the NBA Cup in where were we? In Park MGM. And it really struck me that it was just like not one human being in that hallway knew who the hell Sam Presti was. So if you can make the money, have some success, you know, have balance and not have to deal with the spotlight, you know, in a major way, that's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. These, like you said, great problems to have. I think their general philosophy and answer to that question, and admittedly, I'm stealing this straight from, you know, the program itself, if you will, is like nobody ever said, I have too many $100 bills.
Right.
Like, that's the idea. So I don't know what they will do with all those $100 bills, especially because eventually the analogy runs out because those picks will cost a lot, you know, many hundreds of you know, dollars of bills, if you will, because draft picks who come off rookie scale deals make a lot of money. Right now, they're going to be, I mean, they're in stand pat mode other than the Cam Johnson pursuit and maybe some other stuff that we're not aware of. But they've got a hell of a team that is dominant, that obviously got a taste of the playoffs last year. And, you know, and the bitter loss to Dallas that they've talked about, you know, kind of shaping their competitive fabric that I think has evolved a little bit. I mean, I would not be shocked if they pulled the whole thing off and won the title this year. So we'll see what happens.
By the way, Jason, Sam Presti's wife currently serves as the Teen Leadership Initiatives Coordinator for the YMCA,
of course,
of Greater Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Oh God, there's got to be something wrong with them.
See, I still have the visual of a couple of Sams hanging out in the Vegas hallway.
Oh, absolutely.
Sam and Sam.
Then they pause, play the drums, go to a Rush concert.
Sam, how about the Kings? We always want to, you know, gauge your thoughts on not necessarily the trade deadline. I'm sure there is still going to be an active a team like you had anticipated, at least inquiring about things, but just how they've been playing, how the vibe and the mood has changed pretty drastically over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a very good stretch for them. I have not broken down all the numbers.
Wow. Way to prepare.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right.
I was going to tell you look nice today, but now you're going to.
Don't do that. Everyone's making fun. Some guy says it looks like I'm wearing a neck brace. There's my feelings.
I can see it. But
It does look like we're at a holiday party. Can you like pass me the eggnog?
Hey, we're just off of a 3-day water fast, Sam.
I've seen the complaining on Facebook.
And by the way, as a reward for being a guest of the program each and every week, Sam Amick, you get a box of Swanson's bone broth.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, Swanson's bone broth. It's disgusting. We were allowed to have a mug of bone broth a day, and we each had 2 mugs, and it was gross. And I'm never going to have bone broth again.
Good God. I mean, you look svelte. You're doing something right.
You know, anyway, sorry to interrupt your Kings conversation. My bad.
Yeah, the Kings look good. They, you know, it's a good stretch. The closing clutch minutes have obviously been wildly better than before. You know, they're back in the hunt. They need to obviously continue. They've got this stretch. I mean, I have to publicly acknowledge how wrong I was about at least this first 6-7 games, because when they hit the road, I was guilty of kind of, you know, cynically telling people like, okay, you know, made the coaching change and won a couple, but let's see how this road trip goes. And it went very well, except for in Milwaukee. But, you know, the NBA kind of just keeps coming at you, right? So Houston tonight is a very tough matchup. They're playing really well. Who do they have? They have another tough one right after that.
Yeah, Washington. That's a barn burner.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
yeah, it's going to be rough. By the way, can I just say, sorry, I take that back. They have Washington. God, they have Washington next, and anything can happen. And look out, and never take anybody for granted. Sorry, go ahead. Oof.
Indeed, the Jordan Poole slander will not stand.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, they're listen, Doug's energy, which was something that, you know, when they made the coaching change and you beyond some of the different kind of palace intrigue and drama that happened leading up to it, when you asked the question of why Doug, that from the organization was something that was highlighted, that his positivity and his energy and his, natural instincts to lift people were something that they found desirable. And that seems to have buoyed their group early on, especially not just their play, but the commentary around the team and some of the viewpoints of the players. So, he's off to a very good start, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Well, and to your point, not to get too, again, slobbery over Doug, but not only, I wouldn't even say he stabilized the team. Not only has he led a 7-game win streak off a 6-game losing streak, and as you said, long season, we'll see. But he really we focused so much on the floor. Doug Christie has stabilized, at least for now, the franchise. Guys like you and I and a lot of other people nationally were going after them, and I think rightfully so for the way the Mike Brown firing was handled. But now it's like, okay, that's done. Nothing you can do about that. Let's move forward. Nobody wants to hear about that anymore. It will definitely come up in future conversations. But Doug probably also deserves credit for a nice pat on the back from the superiors for really taking a ton of heat off of everybody.
I mean, he does, for sure. And then now I'm going to be that guy.
Here we go.
No, I mean, it could change in a week.
Yes, it could. Yes, it could.
There's still a long way to, and it also, we don't need to have the Fox conversation, but like the greater hopes. Dave is juggling now. What a skill.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening.
The greater hopes of being something different than a team that scratches and claws to get into the playoffs. They have obviously not proven anything yet on that front. Let me throw it to you this way. I know we probably got to go, but like, what is progress and what is success from this point forward? Is it just getting into the playoffs? Is it winning a first round matchup? What is success?
In my opinion,
what gives Doug Christie the job?
That's exactly how I was going to answer it. In my opinion, this is, and I got to be clear, purely speculation, no inside info. Haven't spoken a word to anybody about this. This is my guess and my guess alone. I think if Doug gets them into a 7-game playoff series, he's guaranteed the job next year. And I think if he gets them into the play-in, he still probably gets the job next year. If for some reason, obviously if they collapse or, they don't make it, there's going to be some reevaluations. And I would say it's a coin flip, if not 40-60 against him getting the job next year if they don't make it in at all.
Yeah, it's so hard to put a label, Sam, because, you said it could change in a week. There's so much context between now and then because – what if there's a 5-game losing streak? What if there's a horrendous Detroit type of loss where you give up a 4-point play? I mean, just unthinkable things. Those things do happen, but I'm kind of with Dave. Like, I think a playoff appearance, or at least even in the second round, which is what seemingly was the goal before the season, I don't know why that wouldn't change much from kind of those decision makers.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's it. That's.
Do you agree? Disagree?
Okay. Oh, no, I do. I mean, I think I will say, even from the last time that we all talked and visited, one thing that has been crystallized even more is that this organization wanted Doug Christie to be the coach a while ago. That's one of the uncomfortable truths. And I say uncomfortable just because, I'm sure Mike Brown feels some kind of way about that reality. So it feels like they would love nothing more than for him to do enough to justify him being the coach.
Yeah. All right, Chris, apologies. I know we have to break. Sam, apologies. And audience, apologies. I'm not doing my job if I don't. Could you expand on what you meant? I don't want to make this a bigger deal than it is, but could you expand just a little bit on this franchise wanting Doug to be the head coach for a while now? Because honestly, I mean, we just kind of rolled through that, but that's actually a pretty profound statement, I think, Sam, for a lot of people to hear.
I mean, so around the league, a lot of times the way our industry works is there are conversations and chatter that gets around to other teams that is not immediately shared with media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the event happens, like the coaching change, then you find out like retroactively, like, oh, by the way, I didn't tell you at the time, but yeah, we've been hearing this. since November. We've been hearing this, like Doug's name being whispered around the league in Sacramento. So there's that component. But to go back even farther, this part is just objectively fair to highlight, and it's not even criticizing, but it is not all that normal to have, like, the fact that Doug has been on several coaching staffs within the same organization without a personal tie to any of the head coaches kind of tells you everything you need to know. He is somebody who was put upon these coaches, and they would meet in the middle and say, all right, yeah, Doug's a good guy, let's go. He's part of the group. And that's from Luke Walton until now. And so, you know, and we know the backstory. Like, that's when they made that coaching change, Doug was a legitimate candidate at that time. And really the only reason that didn't happen then was because the new front office, you know, my interpretation was it was being assertive and saying, like, we're trying to do our jobs, and that's not the person who we would pick at that time. So, you know, that's just the backstory tells you a lot. That's all.
Hey, I appreciate. Listen, I appreciate the insight there, and that's so far. Hey, so far so good, dude. So far so good for the Kings. Yeah. They look like geniuses.
I mean, can I add on to that, Dave?
Yeah, of course.
There's like a tinge of, yes, I know I sound like I'm being critical, but there is also a reality that I'll be fair and acknowledge, like the like pro sports, the NBA, like this stuff's not wildly unique. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Like Pat Riley was a damn broadcaster who just got pulled down to the court. You know, like there's in personal connections oftentimes do impact, you know, kind of the way certain things go. So not trying to act like, you know, this is the end of the world.
Sure.
But it's not, you know, it's something that I think is fair to contextualize.
It's just it's insightful, and I think it's interesting. And as I said, you know, so far so good, and fingers crossed. And Doug deserves every accolade he's getting, and then some so far. So we'll see what the future holds, and we'll discuss that future with Sam Amick each and every week from The Athletic. Read him, follow him, and maybe get a subscription and get a beanie. I guess I wouldn't know anything about that. Sam, thank you.
You like that? Look at that baby.
Yeah, it's very nice. Have a great day, you and your beanie, Sam. Talk to you soon. See you. Bye. We are way late for a break. We're in trouble with Chris. We will be punished during the break. When we come back, we got 4 down territory, but there's some interesting things Sam talked about there as well. We want to talk about again. We'll take that quick break though. 4 down territory next. But first,
you never know what.
But first, I want to talk to you about my good friends at American Energy Heating and Air. I get one for every I get 99 for every one Christmas, so that's fun. Carmichael Dave here for American Energy Heating and Air. To be honest, he didn't really miss it. We just went long on the break. $49 tune-ups, that's what's in store right now. A late Christmas present, or perhaps maybe an early Valentine's Day present for you. Presents for you, President's Day. Because you can get that inspection. You can get all that stuff happening for $49, normally $119. And by the way, if your system is 10 years or older, it's free. It's free, as Alan Stiles would say. And if you need a repair, $50 off that first repair. If you need a new furnace, half off. That's the message we've been sending the last couple of weeks from the company that has been around and serving the greater Sacramento since 1981. From the company that has the A+ with the Better Business Bureau and so much more. Good folks over there. Give them a call, 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990, AmericanEnergyAir.com. American Energy, making the uncomfortable comfortable. 4 down territory next.